My name is Michelle Brown, as I said, and I'm the family worker at Portobello and Joppa Parish Church, which is in Edinburgh. We're on Edinburgh's seaside on the coast of the Firth of Forth. And I'm actually calling you from Musselburgh because I live the next town up in East Lothian from Portobello. And I co-lead Messy Church there. I've been doing that for about 11 years now with my friend and my colleague Ruben Addis. And originally, when Lucy asked us to do this back in August, we had this vision that by now, you could potentially meet people in their homes and you could do these things together and it'd be fantastic. But no, it's not working out that way in Scotland right now. So I am live this morning chatting with you, and Ruben is in the chat, and he'll continue the conversation there and answer questions. And I'm thankful for that because I don't know about you, but for me, through lockdown, I've seemed to have lost the ability to multitask. So at least I can chat to you, and Ruben can chat to you in the text as well. And then tonight, if you log back in at 8 o'clock, Ruben will be sharing a bit more of our journey of our Messy Church and a bit of his experience of being a regional coordinator. Ruben was the first Scotland regional coordinator. I think he started in 2009. So he's got lots of stories from the network that he'd love to share as well. And when he's chatting live, I'll be in the text chat, keeping up with the conversation as well. But before I dig too deep into the story of what is Portobello and Joppa Parish Church, Messy Church, I'm going to bring our candle in. Now, a couple lives ago, Jane mentioned that any godly place storyteller is going to have a candle, a Christ candle in their home. And one of my other hats, aside from doing Messy Church, is that I'm a godly play trainer with Godly Play Scotland. So I do have a Christ candle in the home. However, given that we are in the first week of Advent, I thought it best to bring the Light of the Prophets instead. And I wanted to read to you a prayer that we share in the Church of Scotland. Our church tends to read this out on the first Sunday in Advent, and it comes from the Book of Common Order for the Church of Scotland. Lord Jesus Christ, your world awaits you, in the longing of the persecuted for justice, in the longing of the poor for prosperity, in the longing of the privileged for riches greater than wealth, in the longing of our hearts for a better life, and in the song of your church, expectation is ever present. O come, Lord, desire behind our greatest needs. O come, Lord, liberator of humanity. O come, Lord, O come, Emmanuel. So as we say in Godly Play, this is the light of the prophets. And the prophets came so close to God that they knew the way to go. And they showed us the way to go to Bethlehem. And we journey now in expectation on our way to Bethlehem. So, Portobello and Joppa, Messy Church. And before I get to that part, I'll let you know when I first met Messy Church for the first time. I spent a year in maternity cover for the Diocese of Edinburgh, covering the Youth and Children's Ministry post. And when I was there, Ruben was just starting off as a regional coordinator in Scotland, and he wanted to let more people know about Messy Church. So I helped him set up an epiphany party for the diocese in the style of Messy Church so we could introduce more people to it and then have a training afterwards. And it was amazing. And it was such brilliant experience and something I'd never seen before. And it absolutely sparked my curiosity. And I knew that given the opportunity, I wanted to be involved in a Messy Church myself. Luckily enough, in the springtime, I took a post as the children's and youth worker at St. Philip's Church. And that church, a couple of years later, merged with two other churches in the Church of Scotland, and we became Portobello and Joppa Parish Church. And I then became the family worker. And as luck would have it, they had a messy church up and running already and with a fantastic team of volunteers. So I was blessed to walk right into something that was already working really well and to get to take part and learn from people who've been doing it already. And to backtrack slightly there, it'd be worth sharing with you the origin story of St. Philip's Messy Church because it's quite a good one, I think. Imagine this. There are two dads and they're sitting next to a pool while their children are having their swimming lesson. And one of the dads had been to a Fresh Expressions conference and had listened to Lucy Moore speak about Messy Church and was really inspired, really wanted to start a Messy Church. But the church he was at wasn't looking for that at that time. So he was looking for a home for this Messy Church that he wanted to start. And the other dad was the local Church of Scotland minister. And he was watching the numbers in our congregation dwindle and less families coming along. And he was looking for what was next, what might work, what would be worth trying. So the two dads together uh, decided alongside that pool, I think it was 40 baths, that they would start the Messy Church at St. Philip's. And this was Reuben and our minister, Stuart Weaver. And they worked alongside the amazing, wonderful Rosie Addis, which is Reuben's wife, to begin this Messy Church. And they recruited and chatted with people on the school playground and got some parents involved and got some volunteers from the church. And thus the Messy Church was born at St. Philip's. And as I say, it was quite a gift to walk in and be part of it. So I wonder what your origin story is for your Messy Church. What was the thing that sparked the interest to get your Messy Church started? And if you haven't started one yet, and you're thinking about a Messy Church, what's sparkling for you now? What's making you think that might be worth a try? Well, our Messy Church today has been going for about 11 years, and there's a lot of highlights to it. It's been a really fantastic run. But one of the things I've loved the most is when we get guest speakers in. We quite often will invite someone from the community or someone from the congregation on Sunday morning to come and join us and share a bit about their faith or their interest in something that they can share with the community, as it were. And one of the best examples of this is, we're quite lucky in that one of the elders for our church is actually a presenter for Beech Grove Garden. His name is George Anderson, and he's amazing. And he came out to join us for Messy Church when we did the story of creation and talked about his faith and talked about the power of growing things and creating through growth. And he helped us plant a Messy Church allotment all along the side of our church. And it was fantastic because there were toddlers and preschoolers, there were grandparents, all the generations together planting in this garden and enjoying finding worms and getting muddy and just having a great time. And this garden has grown over the years, and we've harvested some veg out of it that we've been able to cook for our meals and things like that. But it's just been lovely to see it keep growing. And those toddlers and preschoolers who were there, they're now in our youth group. So we watched them grow up as well. That's quite special. We also were privileged to get to invite in fishing music one time. For our Messy Church, always falls at the last weekend of the month. And so inevitably it falls around Halloween in October. And the local school has their Halloween parties, but not everyone can get a ticket sometimes, and so there's a bit of an overflow. And we wanted to support those families who still wanted a Halloween experience. So we have a sort of an outreach messy experience where we may choose one of the spookier Bible stories, Ezekiel and the dry bones sometimes, or we might choose Jesus Light of the World, and we'll talk about the light at that time of year, talk about Jesus instead. But in our Messy Church, we try to say, just come as you are. So if you want to come in your fancy dress Halloween costume, do that. And this one particular year, we invited in fishing music because they're just up the road from us in Edinburgh. And we had an hour-long concert with them, which was great fun. And then went to the hall and proceeded with having our dinner together and our crafts and connection to the Bible story as well. Now, we're blessed with our location because we are right by the beach. And so sometimes we'll head up there, and if the story connects in, we get to share it up there as well. So one year we were doing Noah's Ark, and we collected a bunch of items that people could build together to make a float and try to make a boat. And the minister put on a wetsuit, and he went out into the Firth of Forth to see if it would float. And it didn't really. But we managed to get all the bits back into the sea, onto the shore rather. And it was great fun though. And some of the children that were there that helped build at that time 8 years later, when we did Noah's Ark again, they were our youth group members, and they took a turn going out on the Firth of Forth as well. So that's always been a memorable experience of doing Godly Play there, or sorry, doing Messy Church there. Now, another time, we decided to do the breakfast at the beach, the story of the disciples seeing Jesus after the resurrection. And we built a campfire, and we broke bread and shared it together. And there was something so incredible about smelling the sea, hearing the waves, tasting the bread, hearing the fire crackle as we shared this story. And so any chance we get to take use of the nature that's around us and be part of that when we're sharing our stories is quite important too. We've got a great community in Portobello. They've got special events and things that happen, but one of the most awesome things that happens in Portobello is the last Saturday of August every year, when the big beach busk takes over the promenade. Now, if you can imagine, it's about like a mile-long promenade, and musicians of every caliber turn up and they start playing. So you have like a brass band, and you have a fiddle band, and you'll have two young children singing Frozen, or you have someone playing the drum kit, juggling. It's all going. And you can raise money for a charity, or you can just busk for the love of sharing music. And it's quite an organic event that started by a man named Paul Lambie, a local in Portobello, who just put it on social media, invited people down, and thousands of people will come down to take part, to either play or to walk along and to experience the busk. And it started the same year as our Messy Church. But the first couple of years, well, we were doing Messy Church, so we were in the building and we were missing it and we weren't part of it. And it was this really odd dynamic because it was just at the end of the road on the promenade. And it occurred to us that actually we're trying to do outreach. We're trying to connect to people. We're trying to share Messy Church with everybody. What could be a better opportunity than to pick up what we're doing in the building and take it to the promenade? So we put some pop-up tables up, and we brought our crafts down. We had a musical Bible story, and we shared it with people in the promenade. And we're able to advertise Messy Church a bit more and sort of demystify what it was, because we had this gigantic Messy Church banner on the side of the church, and the main bus route went right past our church, and people didn't really know what Messy Church was, but then we were there in the community at this fantastic event and sharing it. And we had our celebration on the beach with a parachute, and you could tell the story there and sing songs and have a whole experience at the beach. And we'd go back to the church after and have a barbecue on the church lawn for our dinner. And this has always been a great event, but it's one year it was particularly magical in that there were actually dolphins coming up the Firth of Forth and leaping in the water. And you couldn't ask for better weather, and it's just a fantastic event. And one of the highlights recently at one of our busks was that we have volunteer Catherine Rennie. She's a beautiful singer, and she sat with some of the children and some of the parents on the promenade wall, and they together wrote some words to a song to share the Bible story of that particular busk, and also to just think about this experience and what it was like. And then it was shared at our celebration. Now, admittedly, Catherine sings so much better than I do, so do the best I can. It's to hopefully a familiar tune to you. Oh, we love Messy Church beside the seaside. When the tide's in or out, we laugh and shout, hooray! Floating boats making fish beside the prom, where the beach busk goes chiddly-pom-pom. Sharing stories of Jesus by the seashore, hauling nets full of fishes from the sea, teaching people on the shore things they never heard before, and saying, follow, come follow me. That was a really fun beach busk Messy Church, the experience, and lovely that the creator of the busk has claimed us as buskers as well, so we're part of the community that way. Now, another beautiful thing about Portobello is it's a very ecumenical town. All the local clergy, they meet together, they pray together, they support each other, and they call it the Holy Huddle. And we share resources and we connect that way as well. And the local Episcopal Church has this gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous painted cloth labyrinth. It's massive. And so twice we cleared all the chairs out of the center of the church and laid out this floor labyrinth. And the Bible story was all about pilgrimage and walking together. And one of them was the road to Emmaus we used for that particular time. And, it was just brilliant to be in this big, huge church and get to walk the path. And there was toddlers doing it and there were grandparents doing it. It was everyone interacting with this quiet, reflective prayer space. And that was a real blessing to get to borrow from St. Mark's in Portobello. We also end up doing lots of special meals and things. So again, our messy church is at the end of the month. So quite often St. Andrew's Day will fall around our messy church. So we'll have a ceilidh. We'll invite in the Scottish country dancers from our church, and they lead us in a ceilidh, and we have a haggis for dinner, and we go all out with all that as well. And quite often learning about St. Andrew on that day or doing something similar. And we also once a year are absolutely blessed by a family from Messy Church who have decided to cook a 3-course curry for us every year, and sort of a gift to the Messy Church for their experience of coming along to Messy Church. And when the Singh family cook, the dads of Messy Church turn up because they know it's a fantastic meal at the end of what we're doing as well. So it's always amazing when we have that special dinner. And every year in December, we go Christmas caroling at the local care home, which is something I'm really going to miss this year because it's such a special event and a special way to connect with some of the older folks in our community. Hopefully we'll get back there soon, maybe next year. But another thing that we do at Christmas is something that Jane had created in her book, with the messy nativity that travels around the houses. And ever since Jane's book came out, we have had a nativity set travel around our messy church families and our church families, leaving tiny sheep along the way. Because as this nativity set stays in your home for 24 hours, before you pass it on to the next family, you keep a wee tiny little sheep. Looks a bit like this one. And you get to keep this wee tiny sheep to remember when the nativity was in your home. And we've loved doing that. But times being as they are, we can't exactly pass it around the houses this year, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame. We've also done the Messy Church Sheep Trail in the local shops too, and that's always been a great gift as well. So these are some of our highlights. We've probably more than I can even say, but I wonder what your highlights of your Messy Church experience have been pre-COVID. But as much as there's highlights, there's also challenges. And I think these challenges are perhaps even more evident now that we're in lockdown because we have time to look back and to reflect on the ministry and think about things we could have done differently or things we've been missing. And for us, as much as we want to be all age, we are missing our teenagers and our 20-somethings. Our young people tend to stay with us until they're about 12, 13. And then occasionally they'll come back in and they'll help to lead things and all that. But it's always been a struggling point for our messy church and that we're really needing to work on. And discipleship, it's the big one, isn't it? Because people come in once a month and sometimes they can't make that month because there's a birthday party or something on and they can't come. And we don't have a lot of connection out with that time, which is something we struggle with. And wanted to figure out how better to support the families throughout the month and throughout their visits to come and join us. And also, we tried from the start to not put too much pressure on people turning up to give us their contact details because we didn't want to put them off coming in, for better or for worse. We have a mailing list, so people can sign up to the mailing list and they get their emails, but we didn't really have any other contact per se. So it wasn't as if we were filing birthday cards or checking in or, all that. And then when we went into coronavirus, COVID time, there wasn't really much you could do apart from email the ones who joined the list, but not everyone had joined the list. So we lost touch with quite a few of our messy church families. So I regret us not actually having a better way to keep connected from messy church to messy church. And then the huge thing for us, which I suspect many people have, is how do you convince your Sunday congregation that your messy church is worship and that it's a congregation as well? And much like our not getting down to the promenade to be part of the busk, no matter how many times we've invited folks to come from the Sunday congregation and join us and be part of it, you just don't get a lot who make that jump and try it out. And Ruben and I were quite sensitive to the fact that even on our Kirk session that there weren't a lot of people that properly got what Messy Church was. So we reached our 10-year anniversary of Messy Church, which happened to coincide with the 5-year anniversary of our churches merging to become Portobello and Joppa Parish Church. And we decided the best way to help folks understand what Messy Church was to bring it to them. So we had our big beach bus on the Saturday, and then on the Sunday, we canceled the 9:30 quiet reflective service and the 11 o'clock family service, and instead there was a 10:30, only a 10:30 worship service on that Sunday, and we invited the Messy Church families too, and it was a Messy Church Takes Over Sunday. It was fantastic. The ministry team and the Messy Church team led a celebration at the start. It was a short half-hour celebration, just in the style as how we would do it at Messy Church. It was very interactive, some fishy music, definitely. And then I went up to the microphone and I announced, these are your options. These are things you can go do. And there was like 15 things that you could go out and do. You know, you could go gardening with George. You could go and take Mentos and Coca-Cola in the garden with the minister and see that happen. You could go decorate cupcakes. You could work with the flower team to create flowers. You could craft in all these different directions, do all these different things. You could have a quiet prayer space if you liked. And if you really had to, you could stay in the church and you could listen to a sermon. But it's only if you really had to do that. And I think there was about 120, 130 people that came that day, and only about 15 stayed for the sermon. Everyone just out the halls and just dove right in. And it was lovely, you know, and a lot of the children and young people were in the garden with George or in the garden with the minister or doing the cupcakes or flowers, but it was the crafts that attracted most of the adults, you know, and just circles of adults having conversation, which was also fantastic because though we had been merged for 5 years, people from the different original congregations didn't actually all know each other that well yet. They've been worshiping together for 5 years in you know, pews and not really chatting much. And yet around the craft table, around decorating a cupcake in the garden, conversations were happening and people were connecting. And it was all the ages. All the ages were there. And it was the best example of intergenerational ministry I think I've ever seen at our church, which gave me great hope because that's what I'd love to see all the time. And so I think this experience was quite a catalyst moment for our congregation to reconsider how we do things and how can we be more intergenerational in everything we do. So not just with Messy Church, but on Sunday, in our service, in our outreach, in our social activities. How can we be more intergenerational as a congregation as a whole? Which is quite exciting. So I wonder for you, what have been some catalyst moments for your Messy Church, and also what have been your challenges that you've had to face over the last couple of years? What are the things that have come up as you've gone along? Well, after so long of doing Messy Church, we had quite a rhythm. We had quite a sense of what we were going to be doing, which was also probably a challenge because we were kind of stuck in our ways. We needed a bit of shake up to do something different. And lockdown hit, so we didn't know what to do. And it was about a week or two before our March Messy Church that Scotland went into lockdown. So Ruben and I had to think really quick what we were going to do. And the Sunday ministry, Godly Play, and our youth group, the Breakfast Club, this had all gone online on Zoom. So we thought, well, we'll give it a try. We'll see what happens. And we put together with our Messy Church team sort of a list of 12 activities that you could do in your home based upon the Bible story we were going to be sharing in the celebration time. And they all use things you had in your own home. So you didn't have to go out and buy craft. It was just stuff you should have around the house, like aluminum foil or, you know, water, random things. And we connected on Zoom for about a half hour, and we had a celebration time with a story and a game. We tried to sing, not so much on Zoom, but we did a couple other things. And then we invited families to either stay on camera or log off and do their activities for about an hour in their home together, and then come back into the Zoom to share dinner together and say our grace together. And you know, it worked. It did. There was a good group of people that were there. We had a laugh. We had fun. We stayed connected. We had a really good experience and some really positive feedback as well. But not everyone was there. We were seeing our Sunday church families. We weren't seeing the families we were trying to do outreach to, and that was it's a real gap. Something we're really missing. We went on to do 5 more months of online Zoom Messy Church, and still just the Sunday church going families were attending. And even their attendance kind of dropped off because as the weather got nicer and restrictions were easing and people were getting bored of Zoom, you know, people just weren't logging in anymore. So it was time for a change. And not long before that, a friend of mine who runs the Musselburgh Messy Church invited me to some Forest Church Zooms. She had been doing Forest Church in Musselburgh and said, you know, this might be something of interest. So I started going along to learn from that network and try to make sense of what Forest Church could be like and how we might adapt our Messy Church to be more outside at this time so we could meet in person. And Ruben and I had a plan, and it was actually going to coincide with the Big Beach Busk, which this year wasn't happening in the crowds of people in the promenade. Instead, musicians were invited to stay and play at home. And so we thought, what if you had like a walking tour of Portobello and you could try to pick out the different musical instruments as you went along the roads? And what if this walking tour either started or ended at the beach and there was a big labyrinth in the sand and people could walk this and be on this pilgrimage, this journey together, listening for the music? Or it had all these ideas percolating. And but then we read the guidelines for Church of Scotland COVID response and discovered that what we were planning uh, wasn't going to match up to what we were actually allowed to do. So we had to cancel those plans and then figure out what do we do now. But that's where this has helped because Ruben and I have been tuning into the lives and we've been learning from all the people who've been here and shared their stories and shared their experience. And we've been reading Lucy's blogs, we've been reading the posts on Facebook and learning from all of you. And then Ruben and his regional network has also been gleaning ideas and we've been learning from each other. So from all that, we thought it's time for a Messy Church in a Bag. We were late to the party, but we joined it eventually, and it was definitely the best thing we've ever done. Our team met again, our wonderful team, to plan out what activities we'd have in the bag. We were starting with a harvest bag, and we decided to think about the rhythms that we have in life, because harvest being a season, we thought about what this rhythm might be and how could we think about God not just, you know, sort of in our day, in the rhythm of our day. What would that look like? And so we chose to go with Deuteronomy 6:4-9. Listen, people of Israel. The Lord is our God. He is the only Lord. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, and strength. Always remember these commands I give you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and walk along the road. Talk about them when you lie down and when you get up, and write them down and tie them to your hands as a sign. Tie them on your forehead to remind you. Write them on your doors and gates. And so we decided to design the activities for this harvest bag to fit along that theme. So perhaps making a bookmark that you'd have in your book when you read at bedtime, or prayers you can say at bedtime, or prayers you can say at dinner, or when you wake up in the morning, when you leave your house. Activities you can do as you walk along the road to or from school to keep it fresh, keep the verse in your head. We wanted everything to fit into the daily rhythm. And there was a logic behind that as well, because we knew how overwhelmed we'd been as parents with things coming home that we had to do from school or this thing and that thing. And we didn't want a Messy Church bag to feel like a burden. Like you got to sit down for an hour or 2 hours and your family's going to do Messy Church at that exact moment. We thought it would be better if it fit into your daily rhythm. Then it's easier to do it in bite-sized chunks. And you could also realize how it incorporated into every moment of your life, which is what we'd hoped. So it would last the whole month and it would be a faith formation opportunity for the entire family. And with the Bible story, we included wondering questions. We really were keen for families to have an open dialogue with each other. And we were also keen for parents to learn from children and children to learn from parents and for it to be a walking relationship of everyone together, learning together. Um, so that was our goal. And when we delivered these bags, well, first we had to get the addresses because remember, we didn't have addresses for people. And so I went to our Messy Church email list, which we'd had for years and collected people and, you know, did it clear it at one point, but still there were lots of folks on this list who I didn't even know. I'm not sure when they last came to Messy Church, but they were on this list. So I'd emailed them and said, right, do you still want to be on the list? And if you do, this is what we're thinking about doing. Would you like a bag? And the response was amazing because people who hadn't engaged with the Zoom were like, this, I can do this. I couldn't do the screen. I couldn't get my child to sit for a Zoom. This we can do. This is great. Yes, please. And now we had addresses. ways to stay connected with everybody. But we also managed to whittle down that massive list to the people that were actually engaging with Messy Church, which is also good too. Um, and so the volunteers split up separate bags to carry out and to deliver to the families. And this was amazing as well, because we were standing in people's front gardens or on their doorstep, and it's socially distanced, and having a conversation. And you get much more of an idea of how people are actually doing when you have a conversation with them than when you email them. So we were able to adequately pastorally care for these families as well. And it was such an enriching experience. And it's interesting because Susie Farrant, who works with Church of Scotland, she calls it doorstep discipleship. And this is what it was. We'd been looking for a way to disciple, we've been looking for a way to connect, and it was through these bags that it was happening. So it's just magic. It was wonderful. And then for volunteers and for myself as well, we now had opportunity to properly do Messy Church with our own children. I could go through the Messy Church bag with my young child, who was very, very excited about this, and spend time with her, because I wasn't busy trying to run everything and to coordinate things, and I could just sit and focus with her and have time with her. So, and my son as well. So it's been such a godsend. It's been wonderful. So thank you to all of you who did it before us and suggested it, because we've learned from you. We did one again in October. We did I Am the Light of the World, and then we went big for the Advent bag. The Advent bag was actually inspired months before. Early on in lockdown, one of our nimble thimbles from the church, who knits tiny sheep for me every year, sent me a picture of 20 small sheep on her porch and said, "I'm knitting your flock already. I know you're going to ask for it, and I've got nothing else to do in lockdown, so I've made you sheep." And there's 20 there already. And I thought, well, we got 20 already. We might get even more, wouldn't we? So we asked the congregation to make 150 small sheep so that we could put one of these guys in the bags for every child and young person in our creche, in our Sunday Stars, in our youth group, in the coffee morning I did for parents, for the baptismal roll, and for our Messy Church families. And we got over 180 of these wonderful tiny sheep, which we love. Thank you, Jane, for your inspiration for all that. So that was the start of the Advent bag, which we then added in Advent candles and readings you could do at home, and some craft activities, and God Venture sticker Advent calendar that Victoria Beach does, which is brilliant. Lots of fantastic wee things, but it was just, again, a way to inspire and encourage families to have a bit of faith formation at home and to celebrate Advent together. So yeah. And what was most exciting about this actually is who was most happy to receive this bag to get their tiny, tiny sheep were our teenagers. So again, we were worried about losing our young people for our Messy Church, but these young people have grown up having the nativity in their home, and they had 8 tiny sheep already in their home. And one of them said, "I was really worried I wasn't going to have a new sheep to add to the flock this year." So Messy Church in a bag, it's amazing. Um, yeah. And when we look back, I wonder for you, what have been your lockdown learnings? What have been the things that have just taken off, that have been exciting? What are the things you think, I'm not going to actually take that back when we're allowed to be in person again? Ruben and I have been chatting about this, and we think there's something about these bags for sure. And we wonder about if we do an Advent and Easter bag every year, in addition to the in-person Messy Church. And we also thought about, we tend to give this handout out at Messy Church that people can take away and extend it at home as well. But not everyone takes it home. Quite a few get left behind to be recycled. But what if we had bags at the door as they arrived, and you could put the crafts you make at Messy Church in the bag to take home with you, easier to get them home. But there's also faith at home activities that you can then do throughout the month to keep thinking about this Bible verse throughout the month in your own time. So we're percolating this idea. We're thinking about it a bit more. I wonder where that might take us. And we also hope to be outside more, because it is something we do enjoy in our Messy Church so much. So, there's things to be learned, isn't there? So hopefully we can garner some more knowledge from Forest Church as well. And it's exciting that the creativity has been sparked. We had this rhythm. We've been doing Messy Church for so long. We were in a bit of a rut, but now there's new creative activities and ideas coming to us, and new ways to be connected as a Messy Church family. So I'm loving this. I'm loving you all and the way that you share your ideas and your encouragements and the way that we can learn from each other in this time. I know I'm well over time at this point, I think. So I just want to, before I change our light of our candle, I just want to say a huge thank you to three special people to our Messy Church. And first is Martin. Martin Payne came to visit us early on in our Messy Church journey. I think it was like our 4th year of Messy Church. And gave some honest feedback and some support, and it meant a lot to us that you came to see us in Edinburgh. So thank you for that. And Jane, I'm going to miss you when you retire. Wish you well. But honestly, your creativity and your inspiration, especially for the Nativity, has been such a gift. And just we thank you so much for all you have given to Messy Church as well. And then Lucy, it's been a real blessing and an honor to get to meet you over the years with the Messy Church Conference in Scotland, and when I got to come down to see you in England. Yeah, you're just a real gem, and we appreciate your generosity to give in this ministry to all of us. So thank you for that. But most especially, thank you for doing that first FaceTime live at the start of lockdown when it was really scary and uneasy and we didn't know what to do, and you were there. And even just when you lit that candle and you were in that space, that was a gift. So thank you for that. So, we change the slide, eh? And this is when I realize I don't have my candle changer with me, so I'm going to have to change it by blowing it up, but that's okay. Right, friends. May the love, hope, and joy and peace of Advent be with you in this season as we expectantly await the light of the world. Amen. Thanks for listening.